President Joe Biden delivered some great news for a lot of Americans who have been convicted under federal criminal statutes for possessing marijuana. He has pardoned all of them. Here's the announcement the White House put out on Twitter.
As I said when I ran for president, no one should be in jail just for using or possessing marijuana. It's already legal in many states, and criminal records for marijuana possession have led to needless barriers to employment, to housing, to educational opportunities. And that's before you address the racial disparities around who suffers the consequences. While white and black and brown people use marijuana at similar rates, black and brown people are arrested, prosecuted, and convicted at disproportionately higher rates. So today, I'm taking 3 steps to end this failed approach. First, I'm announcing a pardon for all prior federal offenses for the simple possession of marijuana. There are thousands of people who are convicted for marijuana possession who may be denied employment, housing, or educational opportunities as a result of that conviction. My pardon will remove this burden on them. Second, I'm calling on all governors to do the same for state marijuana possession offenses. Third, the federal government currently classifies marijuana as a Schedule I substance, the same as heroin and LSD, and more serious than fentanyl. It makes no sense. So I'm asking the Secretary of Health and Human Services and the Attorney General to initiate a process to review how marijuana is scheduled under federal law. Even as federal and local regulations of marijuana change, important limitations on trafficking, marketing, and underage sales should stay in place. Too many lives have been upended because of our failed approach to marijuana. It's time that we right these wrongs.
Right these wrongs. Well, no matter what President Biden would say, you can count on conservatives to take the opposite point of view. If Joe Biden sneezed, you've got conservatives who would say, oh, he should cover his mouth. If he covered his mouth, they would say, what's wrong with him? Why is he sneezing? Well, of course, Laura Ingraham over on Fox News, she took issue with Joe Biden providing some relief to people who've been convicted under federal criminal law for marijuana possession. And of course, she does not approve of any of this. Watch.
Well, it starts with marijuana, but where does it go from there? Oregon was the first state to decriminalize it. Then they legalized it for recreational use. And then a few years later, they decriminalized hard drugs, cocaine, heroin, LSD, and even meth.
Yeah, they're decriminalizing things, which means that the government is getting now a portion of the proceeds when marijuana is sold legally. And the government also doesn't have to spend time locking up non-violent offenders, people who use drugs. But in any case, it's not entirely clear regarding the federal decriminalization, what Biden's doing in terms of the pardon for people who've been convicted for marijuana possession. It's not entirely clear how many people will receive pardons under the order. The Justice Department issued a statement saying it would expeditiously administer the president's proclamation, which pardons individuals who engage in simple possession of marijuana, restoring political, civil, and other rights to those convicted in that offense. In coming days, the Office of the Pardon Attorney will begin implementing a process to provide impacted individuals with certificates of pardon. Keith Reed at The Root also writes that Biden's move reflects not only a shift in policy, but also a shift in social attitudes. Currently, 19 states have fully legalized marijuana use or possession for either medicinal or recreational purposes. And local prosecutors in some states that have not are increasingly choosing to not pursue cases against people caught with weed as a matter of simple policy. At the same time, weed has stayed on the federal government's list of the most serious illegal substances, creating conflicts with local, state, and federal laws. Keith Reed continues by saying, as a member of the US Senate, Joe Biden was one of the primary sponsors of the now infamous Federal Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994, which provided billions of dollars in federal funding for states to grow the ranks of local police forces and incentivize them to implement a number of tough on crime strategies that have since been blamed for mass incarceration. And while research shows that the connection between the 94 crime bill and mass incarceration isn't that clear cut, Biden has since apologized for his role in promoting the law that many people believe ushered in an incarcerated state and for its detrimental impacts on Black and Hispanic communities. Indeed, the crime bill disproportionately seemed to sweep up African Americans and other minorities, something that Joe Biden, even Bill Clinton, who supported the 94 crime bill, both say that bill was, in hindsight, a mistake. Dan, does the giving a pardon to people who got caught up in federal criminal law about marijuana, does pardoning them go far enough?
Well, yeah, for Crime Bill Joe to turn around and apologize is one thing, but from politicians, we have to expect more from them than apologies. We need to see action. And this is decent action from Joe Biden. It's good to separate here. Let's take this rationally and look at the good versus what this really is, because this is timed specifically right before a midterm election cycle where Biden wants to make sure that he can get as much support from his base as possible. The good is that around 6,500 people who have been hit with federal charges since 1992 for simple possession will have pardons, which will make it easier for them to find employment, find jobs, apply for other different programs they need. Because as we've talked about, it's very difficult to get yourself on your feet when you're getting out of jail because we don't really have a rehabilitation system in this country. We have a punishment system in this country. It needs to be radically reformed. That being said, no one was actually in jail. This is freeing 0 people. Not a single person who was being pardoned by Joe Biden was actually in jail during this. This is, again, it's kind of like he's hiding the buck a little bit by making this sound a little bit better than this is. This is to say nothing about people who are held on a state level or on a local level where they have more strict cannabis laws. It doesn't really do anything for them. Now Biden's urging states to do a look at their own policies, and he's urging the descheduling of cannabis, which is a good thing, or rescheduling of it, which is a good thing. But this says nothing for people who are still in jail for selling small amounts of cannabis. And meanwhile, you have companies that are making millions and billions of dollars off of doing the exact same thing in a legal market. There's no reparations for them. That's the thing that we need to be pushing for it to go far enough. So just keep in mind, this is a political play for Joe Biden. This is a little bit of progress, but we need to be really rational headed and clear minded with what this is really doing. And it definitely does not go far enough.
I agree 100% in terms of both the politics and the policy. Politics, yeah, Joe Biden's got 4 weeks before the midterm elections. He's trying to get people, his base revved up. This is another step in that. And as far as the actual policy, to your point, yeah, I mean, most of these crimes are committed in terms of local laws and state laws. And I remember very clearly, I mean, and again, it's a patchwork of how the states and communities view marijuana possession. Many years ago, when I was at the University of Michigan, the city of Ann Arbor had basically a $5 fine. It was like a little ticket if you were caught smoking hash or cannabis or weed or whatever. So every April 20th, all the students would gather in the Diag campus and just start smoking up and playing guitars and bongo drums, whatever. And the police would go around and they would write tickets. Here's your ticket, here's your ticket, here's your ticket, $5, $5. And we all celebrated this, that okay, fine, $5. We loved it. Well, yeah, but if you drove 30 miles outside of Ann Arbor to some of those other towns, you could get in a lot more trouble. That's where the patchwork sort of comes to play. Hopefully, the message from President Biden is that we all need, in all of our communities and states, regardless of where we live, we need to focus on violent criminals and not the non-violent ones.